Prey is the 5th movie in the Predator franchise, and follows a young Comanche woman desperate to prove herself as a capable hunter. After the last abysmal film in the series, fans pinned a lot of hope onto Prey, and today we'll see if this back-to-basics approach restores the glory of Predator. Welcome everyone to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tara.
Greetings, citizens.
This is a science fiction movie podcast. We get together, we watch a sci-fi movie, we talk about it. It's really quite that simple. And of course, we had been working through the Predator franchise since late last year, and it's all been building up to the new entry, which is what we're going to talk about today. This is the 5th Predator movie, well, 5th standalone Predator movie, I should say, not counting the Alien vs Predator films. And this is Prey, which went straight to Hulu and Disney Plus, depending on your location. And we'll start spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you warning before we get to spoilers, so we'll give our general thoughts and opinions and feelings and talk about some of the elements, and then we'll get into actually breaking down stuff behind the spoiler wall. So that's what we're going to do. So yeah, and it's worth mentioning that about 4 days before it launched, the reviews started coming out. And, you know, they were pretty positive. You know, they went straight to 100% in Rotten Tomatoes. That obviously did eventually fall. I think it's down to like 93%. But, you know, with a lot of reviews, so still a very respectable score. And I think, you know, maybe I speak for both of us here. I don't imagine you're going to disagree with too much of this. Maybe you'll have a few pointers to add on to it. But in my life, ever since I have been old enough to actually go and see an Alien or Predator movie, to put both franchises together, everyone that's come out, and this is starting with the first Alien vs Predator that's been out whilst I've been old enough to actually go see one, has been at best mediocre and at worst absolute dog shit. So the prospect of actually getting a good Predator sequel was enticing. How did you feel when the reviews dropped?
Yeah, absolutely very excited.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I was hopeful. We had the director of 10 Cloverfield Lane, Dan Trachtenberg. We had a cool premise, the initial poster. The trailers looked good. There was a lot of positivity. But we had some reasons to think the Predator may be good last time as well, and that, you know, turned out to be a mess. So you can't always know for sure. So yeah, so this is obviously set in the early 1700s. And it is a Native American main character, Naru, played by Amber Midthunder, who I know from Legion. Apparently she's also been a regular character on Roswell, like the new Roswell show that's been on recently. But this is kind of, as far as I can tell, her first big movie role, and she's our lead.
I know her from nothing.
Well, there you go. You've discovered someone new. Exciting. And she is this young warrior hunter, maybe a better term, and she wants to prove herself to her tribe because no one really expects her to hunt or thinks she can hunt, and it becomes this kind of proving, and of course the irony being that she ends up trying to prove herself with what turns out to be a predator, because, you know, it's a Predator movie. So we'll get into everything, of course, in spoilers, but for now we'll keep spoiler free. And I'll ask the question that we're ultimately here to answer. Tara, what did you think of Prey?
I loved it. I loved it. I think it's really great. I think it's definitely a movie that we could be proud to say that we are alive to see it on release. And the only thing I really didn't like about it is that you couldn't see it in the theater. What the hell? Why is this not a theater-worthy movie and a streaming film only? I hate that. Actually,
I think this might have something to do with because Disney inherited it from Fox when they bought Fox, because it was already like in development. I think it's maybe something to do with that. I'm not sure.
I think that's stupid. It's a very like it's a darkly filmed movie, so like it would have been nice to be in a big cold room in a theater with the beautiful images we get on screen and atmosphere, and really like sink yourself into it, you know? But yeah, I really liked it. I think it's a great film.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. It's very tight. It's got a simple premise. It wants to do some really specific things, and it sets out to achieve them. It's well shot. I like Amber Midthunder as a star. I think she carries the movie quite compellingly.
Honestly, I like all the characters in this. I like her brother a lot too.
Yeah, brother's obviously probably the next main character. He's pretty solid. I think the movie looks good by and large. There is some CG, on some of the animals here or there that's a little bit spotty, but it serves its purpose, and the scenes they're in are pretty good. So you kind of forgive it a bit better when the actual concept of the scene is good. Yeah, and obviously there's some slight changes to the Predator's design, but that's intentional. It's not just because they've redesigned it for redesigning's sake. There is some theory behind why it's a little bit different compared to the other movies, so we'll get into that as well when we get into spoilers. But
and there's a great dog in this.
There is a dog. She has a dog. Her faith. I mean, technically the second star of the movie is the dog. He's the second main character.
Totally.
If we're being really honest.
I was going to bring it up, but you were on a roll.
No, you're right. You're right. The dog is worth mentioning, or maybe third if you
love a good dog.
If you count the Predator as the other star, I suppose technically maybe third, but you know what I mean. Yeah. So like the premise of this, like from the moment they announced it, it was like, this feels right. It feels right to just go back to basics. That overcomplicated nonsense that last movie tried to do was just the wrong direction for the series. And just put it in a Predator into a different time period with a different type of like warrior to face off against. And I'm not necessarily saying that I want them to keep doing this, because you run the risk of doing the Assassin's Creed thing where you're just picking different time periods constantly and it's just the same thing over and over again. But because we haven't had a simple, straightforward Predator movie,
a reset,
it felt really refreshing to just have a simple story of a character, because I do think if you get a lot of these that are just the same thing but in different settings, that eventually the process of the character discovering what the Predator is going to get tedious. Like that will get tiring if we keep seeing it over and over again. But because we've not done it in such a long time, and because like the character's compelling, because there's a good arc for the character that kind of mirrors in a weird way the Predator to a point, up to an extent, it works, and it's entertaining. If I have a critique to or like a negative to give my just overall opinion, it would just be that it's really good, even great. It's just maybe not the astronomical, like, cause some of the reviews and the buzz coming the days before were like, this may be better than the first movie, and it's not. Okay, it's not better than the original Predator. That's not. I
have one reviewer that I listened to, and she said like this is her favorite Predator movie now. I'm like, whoa, okay, like this is this is a nice tease.
Yeah. So I mean, I'd also say that I do think objectively this is the second best Predator movie, but I might still love Predator 2 a little bit more. Maybe that's just because I've had it for so long.
Big Willie would agree with you.
I just, I've had too many years with it. Maybe as I see this more over time, maybe it'll overtake Predator 2. But I really love Predator 2. So
yeah, we both. I mean, you guys can check out the review if you haven't already. But like, we both love that film.
Absolutely. So.
But I do agree that this is probably a better movie.
Yeah, I think this is probably a better movie, but I kind of love it.
Obviously I don't have nostalgia for it. It just came out.
Exactly, yeah. Although I have watched it twice, because I couldn't, because we were recording this on Sunday. I couldn't wait till Sunday to watch. I had to watch on Friday, so I watched that again today.
Yeah, I did too. I watched it yesterday and I watched it this morning.
Yeah, so the fact that it was good enough to want to watch the second time is probably the ringing endorsement that one could probably give. And it's very lean as well. It's not over long. Like, I mean, it's like an hour 40 something on the runtime, but the actual credits start hitting about 90 minutes, so it's really just 90 minutes, like once it actually hits the credits. Yeah, the action's very good. The set pieces are fun and simple. They make sense. You can see and tell what's going on, and I say that because the last two, well, not the last two directly, but AVP 2 and The Predator had a lot of problems with like the editing being erratic and things being too dark, especially AVP 2, which, by the way, for as bad as The Predator is, because I saw a lot of people this weekend have been putting out the Predator rankings because they've got a new one to like slot into it, and some of them are a bit weird and wacky and whatever, but there's a lot of them that have The Predator under AVP 2, and I'm like, it is bad, but come on.
It's not Requiem.
Requiem is like a special level of hell. Like, let's not pretend otherwise here. So yeah, no, the movie's great. I had a good time with it. I love the different tone that it has. I almost could have done, actually, see when it cuts to the credits at the end, you know, again, we're not talking about anything that's in the movie here. I almost wish it did finally come in with like a version of the main theme, because the movie doesn't have.
It never does, yeah.
And all of them, even the bad ones, have all had it up until this point. If anything, they've overused it. So I was kind of hoping that maybe they'd finally have one at the end. But I did like the score. Like, I thought it was kind of cool to have a completely different feel.
I did too. And there was parts of the score that actually did remind me of the original theme, at least where like it feels like it's a nod to the style of the song, of the main theme, but without going into it.
Yeah, it's got little just sort of touches.
Almost like it's a prototype for the you know, the one we get in the McTiernan film. So kind of like, you know, this is the Predator's first trip to Earth, the first hunt.
Yeah.
You know, this is the first version of the song. That's stupid, but like.
Yeah, I just
a little bit.
I kind of wanted it to kick in properly in the end credits to just give me, like, you know, it can be its own style. It can be like with its own instruments that it's been using throughout the score and things like that, and have its own, you know, flavor of it. But I was kind of hoping it would kind of kick in when it hit the credits.
Respect that they, you know, had the restraint though, not to like use it
all the
so
time,
much like all the other ones did.
No, I appreciate that, and I do think the main themes that it does have, especially because it's actually, this one is maybe the only one that has some of the more like kind of heartfelt themes, because there's like some sort of like coming of age heroic kind of like tracks for our main character Naru. She's like, you know, like when she's like being brave enough to actually walk off into the forest, like when she says, you know what, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, I'm going to go do this. Like, that's got like a really nice track as she goes and does that and stuff. Actually, this is a weird like little nitpick thing to complain about, but so the title screen at the start, right? And that's funny because I brought up the title screen during the Predator as well.
I know what you're gonna say, because I was gonna bring this up too.
Yeah, so it does this thing without spoiling anything. The camera just sort of like tilts up to the sky, and the logo, you know, it's almost as if the logo was waiting in the sky, and the camera looks up at it. And that's fine, that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is that they keep like the copyright text underneath it, and that's also
so weird. Like, why is that there?
But it's not just that, like, see if it just faded in after the camera stopped moving and the title was there in perfectly, you know, center position. If then the copyright text faded in, I'd be like, fine. But it's actually already there, as if it's also waiting right under the title. So when the camera goes up, the first thing you actually see is copyright XX, you know, CI whatever.
I just thought it was a strange choice, because it makes it look cheap. I don't know why. Like, but like, it doesn't look as professional.
It is the first thing you see when the camera goes up is the copyright text underneath the title, not the title itself, and it is baffling especially since most movies don't need to put the copyright text in the title screen. Most of them don't. So
they didn't do it in The Invisible Man, where like the water comes up and you see the title. There's no like copyright and tiny text.
So yeah, if that felt weird, I don't know what the reasoning, or, you know, because I don't imagine the director wanted that. It has to be mandated, and I'm not sure why. But
yeah, it's weird.
There it is. So it's a weird nitpick to have, but it did bug me, and it bugged me even more the second time when I knew it was coming. And I'm like. That's like it takes me out of the moment.
I don't like it. Yeah,
it takes me out.
Didn't like it.
It takes me out of the moment, because it's like, instead of just being like, oh, as a movie title, I'm like, copyright text.
And it is a cool way to introduce the title. You know, like going up and having the title of Prey in the sky, and the actual title looks good.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
Didn't like that.
But I mean, honestly, at this point, if you think I'm being a little negative, like, I've got all my complaints pretty much out of the way. Like, barring one or two little things from that I can't say because of spoilers, like the CG being a bit spotty at times, the title having the copyright thing, not having the main theme at the end, like, that's basically my complaints. And if that's all my complaints are, then we're in pretty good territory here.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like how the first Predator film feels like an action movie that gets invaded by a science fiction movie. This movie feels like a historical piece, like not like Terrence Malick or anything, but like you know, like Revenant or something that gets interrupted by a Predator film. And I love that. I love how this feels so back to basic without the mistakes of the other directors who are like, oh, people like just big men shooting at things. Like, no, that wasn't the basics that it makes the Predator so great, you know? Because even though you had all those giant men who were very capable, they were being hunted by something that they didn't understand. And that is really the point of the film, not that they're big and strong and they can shoot down forests, you know? So having something that's like, you know, obviously the Predator is older, so or an older version of the Predator, so it doesn't have all the technology, but it still has so much technology versus these people who have, you know, hatchets with ropes attached to them as their technology. Yeah, seeing what happens from there is a really cool idea for a Predator film.
You can tell that it is a more primitive version of the Predator, but it still has like a laser sight, for example, which, you know, like that's the thing. The first time that laser sight pops up in this movie, the characters who are getting aimed at, they don't understand it's a laser sight because, you know, when Arnold sees like a laser sight on him, like he understands full well what that means and what it is. Because you understand, because even just the idea of artificial light to these characters is, you know, an alien concept, because they're still working with fire and like pointy sticks and shit, you know. So that kind of like difference is kind of wild. There is some like the Predator's got a different design, and I did see something about the director talking about how it's actually like, the working sort of behind it is the idea that, you know, not all Predators come from the same like race, if that makes sense. Like there's different like clans and tribes of Predators on the home world, and the idea is that this first one that we see in here is not the exact same, not from the exact same part of the planet as the Predators we've seen in other movies. That's why the face is different.
Yeah, so. This movie isn't saying like those other sequels don't exist, even with it being a prequel. There's actually a lot that ties into the films that came after it. So like I won't say specifically, but like, you know, you can't just be like, oh, this is a prequel, so like you don't have to worry about things that happen in Predators or in Predator 2 or whatever. Like, you know, there is still some connective tissue, and I think that's also kind of a brave choice in.
Well, Predator and Predator 2. I don't think you need to give a shit about Predators or the Predator for this.
Well, I think I still like I give respect. Because there's a lot of like franchises that are like, okay, we're going to bring it back, but we're only counting it from the first or second movie, and then all the other sequels don't matter, you know? This one doesn't seem to take that route, which I think is kind of cool.
There's nothing that says that it doesn't take that route, though. There's like nothing that says Predators and the Predator. Like, this is a weird thing to argue, but like...
Well, I don't want to say till spoilers, but there is something that connects it.
To Predators?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I didn't catch that clearly.
Okay, I'll just say, maybe it's not a spoiler, so if it is, you can cut it out from here, but like it's the helmet that he wears is based off an animal that we see in Predators. Like it's the skull of that creature that's there. That's turned into a helmet.
Didn't recognize it.
Yeah. I looked it up in the trivia, but like, that's awesome.
Oh, did you recognize it though when you actually watched the movie?
No.
Okay.
But I looked it up in the trivia and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I'm like, I can see it now.
Because there's not very much memorable about Predators, let's be honest. Like,
no, I mean, like a lot of the technology that the Predator uses in the other films also shows up here. You know, it's not like they still have spaceships, obviously, so they're not going to be completely primitive.
Yeah, of course.
Version of Predator.
Of course, but you can sort of see how they've sort of like backdated some of their tech a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
Like his, like I won't say, we'll save most of this for spoilers, but you know, like his shoulder gun doesn't fire the same thing that the modern Predators guns do and things like that. So. No, some interesting stuff there. I will say, I mean, I don't love the design of the new face. It's just kind of, you know, it's not as iconic as the classic Predator, but you know, it functions, and it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things because the Predator itself, and it's like this Predator has so much more presence and menace and character than any of the Predators in the last couple of Predators movies. Like, you know, you get a sense of what the character of this Predator is. his presence is always treated with this aura, like he's this unstoppable force, like he's smart, but at the same time you still get that this is like maybe a younger predator who's like still making mistakes and is still a bit reckless at times and is still maybe you know, being cocky with his skills, and that maybe is why people get a chance here or there to fight back, because he's you know, if this was a trained if this was like a mature predator, they'd have no chance kind of thing. So and a lot of
or
that
one that had previous experience on Earth, maybe.
Yeah. But I mean, we don't know for sure that the other predators that we see in the other movies have ever had experience on Earth before. Like I always got.
I imagine they've heard of Earth.
They've heard of Earth, but I always got the impression that this was like, it's not like they come back here repeatedly. It's more like this is a rite of passage. Like, you know, they go off when they're, you know, late teens, early 20s, whatever it is, and do their thing. No?
Yeah, I guess I don't know. It just seems more like for me, I was picking up on like this predator in particular, like doesn't know what it's going to encounter on the planet, because if it did, it would go after humans.
Well, yeah,
right
but
away.
this one's very different though, because this one, like they've said in interviews, this is the first predator that's ever landed on Earth. So
exactly,
everything this predator encounters is new to it. So that's kind of.
So I imagine like the predator that shows up in you know, the first film is like, yeah, I've come here to hunt humans. That's what I've come here for.
Yeah.
I know what to expect. I know what their technology is, and this is what's going to make it the challenge. And that I've matched my technology to be able to defeat them.
Yeah, which it definitely makes it harder for the humans in that scenario, because they've got a bit more experience as a culture. Like, they know what to expect on Earth.
Yeah.
This predator though, what makes it work so well though is that the idea that he's this young hunter who's like trying to prove himself mirrors the main character, because she's a young hunter trying to prove herself, and it kind of leads to an interesting debate actually that I've seen online the last couple of days, is the decision to actually see the predator at all before the main character does, and whether or not it was the right choice to do so. Without getting into specifics about how we see the predator and what, but because obviously the reason for it in the movie, and the reason why the decision is clearly made, is because it wants to show the parallels between the two. You know, it wants to show that he's a young hunter, she's a young hunter, and it's trying to show a little bit of that before they encounter each other. And I do think there's an argument to be had either way of like, is that the right thing to do, or is the right thing to do for you know, tension and horror sake, is to only get the hints that she gets of there been something out there, and then eventually when they get the full reveal, that's when you should see him for the first time, kind of thing. What do you feel? Like, do you think they made the right choice, or do you think they should have waited until...
I don't think I quite understand what the complaint is. Is it like that they're upset that you get to see the predator arrive on Earth before, like I don't know, because in the first movie, like we were saying, we had the discussion about how, like, is it a mistake to show the predator fly to Earth and land on Earth, instead of like starting it off as an action movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger that becomes an alien invasion film all of a sudden?
It's not really about the landing on Earth, because the signs of that are mostly something that, you know, it's like rumbles in the sky that our characters actually see, so it's from her perspective. So we just experience what she does. It's more that we see the predator doing anything in his own scenes of any kind before she runs into him. Like there's an argument, and I understand the argument, because I do think it would also be effective in a different way, where you only see like the signs that, you know, the tracks, or I don't want to get into specifics, but you know, the things that she sees where she's like, there's something out here, like just that stuff until the actual interaction for the first time.
No, I don't think I would like that better. I really like the way it's done here, where we get to see the predator first time on Earth. Like, I really pick up a lot of what he's trying to do there just from watching his interactions.
Well, I mean, that's why I say, like, I get the parallels and why they decide to do that way, which is why I'm not framing it as a critique. I'm just sort of like posing the debate, because I've seen other people say that online. I think there's value of doing it both ways, and I understand why they picked this way.
Yeah, but I think this way is I mean, it's the only one I've seen, obviously, but I do think it's the right way to do it, especially if you're going to have the themes of, you know, the film. Why not have it, you know, be a mirror of the main character? I think that's the right way to go. And
of course, those elements, like, you don't necessarily just see everything when you see him early on. You know, it does conceal a lot of things for later, but you know, just the idea that we get to see kind of like, oh, what's the predator up to? You know? Yeah. And it is pretty quick. Like, it's not like you're going to wait for a predator to show up, you know? Yeah, it's not too long at all. The movie does want to make it a parallel between the Predator and the main character quite early on. So, but yeah, yeah. I suppose it's time to just say spoilers and dive in, and talk about things as we go. So, full spoilers for Prey. You've been warned. So, the movie, it just opens with us getting to know our main character with Naru, like. She's one of the women in the tribe, so she's expected to pick flowers and cook and do medicine and things like that. She's not expected to be a hunter. But one of the first things we see her do is when she's out, picking flowers or whatever, is she looks over at the trees and she's clearly got a sparkle in her eye and she's like, yeah, F this. And then the next thing we see is her practicing with her tomahawk, where she's throwing it to tree to tree to tree and just practicing her aim and stuff. This is what she really is. This is what she really wants to be. And the first, like, I'd say 15-20 minutes is all about reinforcing that idea. It's that her mother says, oh, your dad left you that tomahawk to cut whatever with, not go hunting. And we see her almost get a deer with it. There's a little on the nose moment where she said, she gives something to the dog. I think it's part of the fish. And the dog runs out, and the mum goes, "Oh, he's well trained," and she's like, "Oh, it's easy, he's smart." And the mum just looks at her and goes, "Not every creature that's smart can easily be trained." And it's just, it's really kind of hitting what this movie is going to be. It's obviously a bit coming of age, but it's very much about her proving herself and everyone else not thinking she's capable, and her being determined to do it. And just to skip ahead a little bit, just for one little line, I might have hated the direct line that references, the "if it bleeds we can kill it." I might have thought that was a bit cringy if it wasn't for the fact
it's coming from a hunter.
No, not that. If it wasn't for the fact that right before her brother says it, it's because she's the line that prompts it is her directly saying, "I don't think we can kill this thing," and then he says, "If it bleeds we can kill it," right? But it's because in that scene when they're having this conversation, she realizes that the Predator didn't attack her in a previous scene because she wasn't a threat. But what I liked about that is because it's a spin on every other version of that we've ever had, which is that makes her sad because she wants to be seen as an equal and as a threat and as someone who can hunt. And the Predator dismisses this alien creature who can't understand her language or anything, has dismissed her and said, no, she is a feeble weakling who should not be attacked. And that, so when she says that, I was like, that is actually really smart to flip it like that, where that's a sad thing for her, where she feels like she's been overlooked because of that. And then her brother gives her a pep talk and, "Oh, your plans will to help kill the lion earlier, blah blah blah." Like, but I think that's what made it work for me. So, all this setup early on is really important because it's like, okay, this is, and we see the other assholes who don't really respect her and say, "We don't need a chef out here to hunt the lion," kind of thing.
Yeah. It's showing the Predator's doing the same thing as they are. They're underestimating her capabilities, and even in that moment, she's learning something that she will use against the Predator in the ultimate battle, which obviously is going to happen.
Yeah. That if you're overlooked, then you've got an advantage until you attack. Basically, you've got a window. You won't be expecting it, kind of thing.
And she's smart. I mean, that's something that's clearly, established early on in the film as well. And she knows, everyone knows that she's good at medicine, but I don't even think that she acknowledges just how good at medicine she is. Like people who really depend on just whatever common stuff is around, like different flowers and stuff. Like she's like, "Oh yeah, no problem."
Yeah, and she's better at tracking than most of them are. Like she's the one that recognizes that this isn't a bear. This footprint that they find. Next to the snake that the Predator skinned, which I didn't even realize that was a snake at first because it's just this cylinder of flesh. Like I was like, oh, that's a snake. I was wondering what this sausage looking thing was. But yeah, which again is one of the first things you see from the Predators. The snake and after the
you follow an ant go up the invisible foot of the Predator.
That's the key thing, is that all this early Predator stuff is the invisible cloaking's on the whole time. So
Yeah.
And it feels like they've actually reworked it a little bit to look a little bit slicker than the previous movies, I felt.
There's still a shimmer if he moves, but if he's still, like, you can't see him.
But yeah, he ends up like grabbing the snake and killing it. That's like the first Predator he kills, if you will.
He's just on Earth and he's watching nature to see what the competition is here. And first it's a snake that goes after a rat. And he kills the snake because that's the predator. Yeah,
and then the second time he's watching this wolf hunt a hare or whatever it is, and he's watching it from a distance. We get the thermal vision. We're watching this chase happen, and then eventually the wolf actually does try to do a standoff. The wolf thinks, "Oh, I'm going to take this invisible bastard on. I ain't scared." And the predator just like slices it and kills it. It's the wolf had no chance, basically. But he's working his way up the chain, as it will. He's not quite at humans yet. He's sort of testing to see what each of the species are like, and that's good stuff. There's a couple, I can't remember what was off the top of my head now, it's telling me, but there's a couple of direct times where it cuts from what the predator's doing to what Naru's doing, and they're basically doing the same thing. I think it might be when I can't remember now. It may be when maybe when she's sharpening something or something, he's sharpening something, but there's definitely like a cut at one point where it cuts from what he's doing to what she's doing, and it's basically the same thing, just in their own way.
Trachtenberg's really trying to establish, like, they're going to be equals, like, or at least their goals are more similar than you might think. Because
the part of the plot early on with the humans is that one of the tribe has been attacked by a mountain lion or whatever, and they have to go hunt the lion and find their friend, and this is where she tries to prove herself. She comes along, she gives him medicine, and by that I mean flowers that she's kind of mushed up and put in his mouth, and she's recognizing there's something else going on here. It's not just like a bear, it's not just a lion, but there's a great, when the lion attacks though, because she wants to prove herself and she sticks around, there's a great moment where this visual of the lion on one branch of the tree, and then she's on the other branch with the spear, and it's a great visual. And the guy,
great to see it on the screen, like big screen.
Oh yeah, and the guy who's with her was like right before was like, "Nah, you're gonna fail, and then we're gonna have to go hunt this lion after you're taken back to camp, woman," and then immediately he gets killed. And that's the thing.
Mid sentence.
All of the other tribes guys who, other than her brother, who are just talking down to her, like they're all going to get killed, and like they're making you what, and they're not the most violent characters in the film, because we'll get to the French poachers later, but like it's like, okay, you're making me want to see all these characters die, and that's okay because they're going to die. They're definitely going to die.
I didn't want to see them die, but they were like definitely dicks to her.
Yes.
The Frenchmen, I want to see them all die.
Yeah, well, Joe, what this one is the first hint of the French. You don't know it's Frenchman yet, but when she finds all the skinned buffalo, but all the meat's still on them, it reminded me weirdly of that scene in Jurassic World where the Indominus Rex has killed all of the Broncosauruses or whatever it was.
Right, and it wasn't eating them; it was just doing it for sport.
Yeah, and it was almost like, oh, this is more evil than the Predator. Like the Predator, he's taking trophies.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like the Predator has a code, and this Comanche tribe have a code for their hunt. That's why she does the little prayer thing for them.
Yeah.
For the buffalo.
Yeah, it's and it's like when she does like get a blow into the lion, but she knocks herself out, after she stabs it, and she wakes up back at camp, and then her brother comes out of the forest holding the lion's head with the body over his shoulder like a badass, and everyone else is happy, but she's sad because she couldn't do it. Her brother did though. So
after he carried her all the way back to camp.
Yeah, after he saved her ass as well. So she feels really useless. And this is kind of the inspiration, the next morning when she like gets up and she's meant to be going to do the flower stuff again like she has done, and she's like, no, screw this, and she packs for a journey to go and hunt whatever this other thing is that's out there that she knows is out there, and takes her dog. And it's a really good big moment because like everyone's looking at her as she's leaving because she's not dressed like they are. She's put on her traveling gear and stuff.
Got more paint on,
and it feels like a big moment. And that's the thing, this movie does have long stretches with very little dialogue because she's just out there on her own with the dog, and she's she's hunting, she's tracking, she's practicing with her hatchet or tomahawk, and she even ties like a rope to it at one point so she can sort of pull it back, and she's
got the Kratos axe now, right? Whatever it's called, I can't remember. It's been a while since I played the game, but
I'm sure some of the physics with this are a little bit off, but it made for some cool scenes, so I'm not
it really did. I liked it.
Yeah, and it established that she does this. She establishes early on that she's good with it, and I got excited because when she's like, she's throwing it at the tree and pulling it back and throwing it to another tree very quickly. I got excited because I'm like, she's going to throw that into the predator later on, and it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a big moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, so yeah, this is all going on. She spends the night. She does like fall into like a mud pit at one point, and like almost dies. Like she has to like throw the tomahawk and pull herself out, and she just does it at the last second. She gets covered like neck down in mud.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you're a Predator fan, you're thinking,
I was thinking Predator was going to like show up and like not see her, and she was going to get the hint.
Yeah.
But,
or
I mean, it happens later anyway. But
well, not quite, because I was thinking, oh, they've set up like once she learns how to like that it sees
camouflage,
heat, right?
Yeah.
She's got like a natural place to go and get a mud bath, basically, right? But it turns out to be a red herring, and it's actually no, it's more about trapping the predator later. She actually cools her body temperature in a different way, because she learns a new method, which is set up early on, because when the injured guy who got hit by the lion, or bit by the lion, I should say, like she gives him the medicine, and they're saying, oh, he's cold, we should heat him up, and she says, no, the cold's good, it'll help keep him alive until we get him back to camp. So it establishes that
reducing
medicine,
his fever and stuff. Yeah.
So it establishes that medicine cools his body temperature, which is, she discovers later on when the predator like doesn't see the guy playing dead. Yeah. He's playing dead and he can't see him, but then he steps on him by accident, and then the guy screams and he's like, oh stop. Yeah, that's you.
A very good moment.
Yeah. So all this early stuff is good. It's very atmospheric. It's like getting to know the character and how determined she is. And once she's out on her own, obviously she eventually, encounters the predator. That's kind of what we're building up to. I did like just an update on like an old thing is that you see him using his spray on the wolf's like head to get rid of the fur and the flesh, so it's just the skull. He does that in the first movie, but because now obviously we have like better visual effects, like you could really see it like melting the face and the fur and all that. It's like, okay,
it looked new. I couldn't remember if that was something that we had seen before, like, or how it cleaned the skulls previously, but it definitely looked like a new thing because of the special effects we have.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think because we do see him spray the skulls and stuff in the previous movies, but I think it's just that now it just like, oh, we can actually show it melting.
It wasn't just like some sort of resin to petrify.
Yeah, because of that in the old movies, it was basically already just a skull that he was just spraying. Yeah. So that was a nice update.
I liked it. Yeah, I appreciate that, and it was good belt decoration for.
Oh yeah. So we have to talk about the bear. That's the big thing we're talking about now is the bear.
It's a great scene.
Yeah, so they come across a bear, the main character and the dog, and she goes to shoot it with the bow. And even this was kind of set up earlier on, actually, that if the bow gets wet, the string can
uncoil.
And because of her mud bath, her bow's weak and it doesn't fire, and the bear hears it and like it roars and turns around and is coming for them. So we get like a bit of a chase sequence just from her running from the bear, and obviously the whole movie you're thinking, is this dog going to die? I don't want the dog to die.
Oh yeah. That would be unacceptable. Everybody else could die. She could die, not the dog.
Not the dog. But we get this great scene where she runs into like the what do you even call it? Like all the build up of like wooden twigs and shit in the river.
It looks like a beaver dam.
Like a beaver. Yeah, okay, it's a beaver dam. So she runs into the beaver dam, and the bears try to get to her, and then out of nowhere, obviously, we just like the bear gets pulled back, and we get like she watches this fight like between the wood and the twigs, and she just sees like this invisible. You can kind of see the outline off because of the shimmering, fighting the bear. The odd little like red flash, like it's like whenever his like suit gets damaged or he's like tech gets damaged, there's like a little like flash of red,
right.
And what I love about this is that the bear actually does prove a bit of a tough challenge where he does get knocked out. Like the bear kind of wins and starts to walk away.
You see the bear's got the green blood on its snout.
Yeah. And then the predator rises up behind it, and the bear's like, "Oh shit!" and comes back, and then the predator kicks the shit out of it and wins.
He just punches it.
He punches it, but then he eventually holds it above his head, and it's actually the big slice that he's made, and all the blood pouring down that kind of reveals what he looks like, but not completely. So he's like just
he's drinking the blood or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but he gets this like sort of river of blood, like, or rain of blood pouring down on him, and that's when she finally gets a good look of like roughly what his head and stuff looks like, and then she obviously swims for her life because oh shit, he's scary.
Yeah, and like the predator takes note of her, but like clearly it was not interested, like in because he just wanted whatever was winning. You know, she was the rabbit in this case. She was the prey, and it was going after the bear because that was the challenge. And of course, I mean, for her, I don't think this moment has registered until the part that you already talked about. But like, she is just getting the heck out of there, and that's it. That's all she's concerned about.
Yeah, it's not until later when she is caught in the trap and he's chased her. It's right after she's encountered, or just before she encounters the Frenchman for the first time, where he just doesn't do anything to her, and that's kind of the moment that. Not where she realizes it, but that's the moment where she's thinking about later, where she's like, "Oh, it just didn't do anything." It went after everyone else, because by that point, obviously, the guys that have been sent out to find her have found her. So these 3 or 4 guys are like being mean to her. This is soon after the bear attack, which was obviously a great sequence, and like, it's the guy with the red feathers is kind of the main one. Like he starts to he's like, okay, enough of this bullshit, you're going home now, and she tries to resist and he pulls her back, and it becomes a fight where he's trying to throw punches at her and she's dodging and punching him back, and it's very much a scene to show that no, she can hold her own, she can like throw down and like fight it,
she like knees him in the face at one point. Yeah,
she's not holding back, she's like proper fighting this dude. And eventually, like, because she's outnumbered, like, one of them comes in and like puts a stop to it, and like they're going to take her back to camp. But it's a really good little sequence to show like, no, she is going to keep fighting no matter what, and it's like shows a determination.
I mean, there is a point where she like gets up and he's hurt, and she's still like, no, this fight's not over, and like goes back towards him and tries to finish it. Without, even though she had an opportunity to probably just leave from there, but
they had to chase her. Like, this is the thing. Like, I think it doesn't feel vindictive or like she wants revenge. It feels like she knows she's not proven yet for them to leave her alone.
Yeah.
So she goes, and it's a really good little fight scene. Like, I wasn't expecting such a good hand-to-hand combat scene.
I mean, it's no They Live, but it's pretty good.
No, it's not that, but it was a really good sequence.
It was definitely more brutal than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah. Because she gets punched in the face. I mean, the first couple of times they tries to punch her in the face, she dodges it, and you're like, oh, they're not going to go there. But then eventually he does punch her in the face, and it's like, oh, okay. So she's taking the licks. She's going to have to keep on coming. But then, of course, the Predator shows up, and this is where we get the red laser sights, and like the red fella just like, what's this? What's going on? What's this magic beams? What is this?
Yeah, it was good acting on his. He really just was like, I've never seen.
Yeah,
I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah, and these 2 buddies are looking at each other like, what's going on? Because there's 4 of them, but one of them's waiting to take a shit, so he's away just now. So
it's funny because it makes me think of Birdemic.
Hey, people had to shit in the 1700s.
It's true.
He
makes a point, like, do you want me to do it here where everybody's hanging out, or should I go away? Like, no, go ahead, go.
Yeah, so and we see that the Predator doesn't have his like, I don't know, laser blaster, whatever you want to call it. Instead it fires like metal arrows effectively. So it's kind of interesting to think, okay, this actually makes sense to me in a weird way, because if you think about it, we have laser lights ourselves now, but we don't have laser blasters. So effectively this actually tracks with the like how technology is progressing in real life.
Yeah, we don't have plasma rifles yet, but
no, but we have laser sights.
We have laser sights.
Exactly. Yeah. So this makes some amount of sense. I mean, obviously they're still more advanced than us because they have spaceships, but
obviously.
Yeah. But yeah, so I thought that was neat. Yeah, the idea that they don't have their cool, like, you know, metal mask yet that has, you know, lots of other doohickeys on it is kind of interesting.
Yeah. I thought, I don't know if we've seen this before or if something I missed, but like the 3 dots we're used to, I haven't seen it where like the 3 dots separate to 3 different points on the body at once.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't remember
like it was
that.
going for the vitals, right? Like one went through the heart, one went through the eye for the brain, and I don't know, maybe the other one went for the balls. I'm not sure where the third one went.
Well, one went to his hand because he held up his hand.
That's right, the hand.
And it went in there. So 2 vitals and then just the one that it was following, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's a fun take on it, and I even seen the other 2 guys try to fight it, and you know, one getting like their arm like cut off at one point, and just, you know, the last guy like jumps with a spear. He's like, bless him, he's trying, but he's not even got a chance.
These are the ones that didn't listen to her, that didn't take her seriously.
Nope. And when she runs out into the field,
listen to women.
When she runs out into the field, the one who was having a shit, he's there, and he's like, wait, he's like, shh, you know, like, crouch down. Like, you know, like, I've got him, I'm going to like shoot him with the arrow, and of course like the laser sight comes out, and this is the cool thing about this, is that over the course of the movie from this point, she is learning gradually how his tech works, because she sees the dots on his body and goes, no, he has us, that we need to move, like that means he's going to fire something at us.
And then we get our long grass scene, like the raptors in Lost World. I like the shot a lot. You know, it works well in the Lost World. It works well here.
Oh, the top-down shot where you see with the invisible predators running after them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't go into the long grass.
Yeah. I don't think it really mattered where they went in this case.
No, I just think the shot, you know,
yeah, the shot's good. Yeah,
works really well, because you can't see the predator, but you can see the trail of him. Really gaining speed on everyone, or the 2 of them while they're running.
Yeah, yeah, I keep saying that. I've said this like 5 times now, but it was a fun sequence. Like, there's so many fun sequences that just feel inventive. Like, they thought about how can we use the Predator in this time period? How can we use him against the weapon types that the characters are using? How can we use him in different scenarios here? Because, you know, it could end up feeling very similar to the first movie if they weren't careful, where, oh, it's in a forest, you know, the first one was in a jungle. Like, towards the end of the film where Naru starts making some traps on trees and stuff, I'm like, yeah, this is not that dissimilar to what Arnold was doing at the end of the first movie.
Yeah, I mean, that thought crossed my mind when like the premise of the film came up. It's like, well, like how do you even compete when you don't have technology against the Predator? But like that's how Arnold defeats him in the first one. It's just
sure, yeah.
You know, sticks and
that's
and things that they can fall into, and
but that in and of itself is a risk though, because if it feels too similar to that in the first movie, like the third act of this could have felt like a dud. It could have felt like, oh, it's just doing that, but it never felt like it was doing the same thing again. It always felt like it was doing its own spin on it.
Yeah.
So you know, that's I think that's important, and I think it keeps finding ways to do that. And so then she runs into a bear trap or whatever it is, and
it's a fur trap, yeah,
and then like the 3 Frenchmen come out looking really pompous with their big beards, and
yeah, you immediately hate them because they're white people in America, and you know, versus the Comanche tribe, and then also they're French.
Yeah, and we realized quite quickly they were the poachers who killed all the buffalo, and they are just kind of like obnoxious. Like, they never like do anything with it, but there's a point where she's like in the cage, because you know she wakes up in a cage after they knock her out, and like the leader, the main sort of fat French dude, is talking to like his second in command or whatever. And they're sort of laughing and looking at her and smiling as if like, oh, this might get really dark soon. Like, they may have some plans for her. And you never like see anything like that, or it never goes down that path. But like, I got the impression that's what they were maybe alluding to for later. But there is one of them who speaks not English, but speaks the Comanche language. But obviously, we were watching the version in English, where we get English. There is a version. There's a dub in Comanche if you want to watch it that way.
I heard about that.
Yeah. Which I mean,
I wonder if the French people. I guess the French people wouldn't be like subtitled or anything, because they're not in this.
No, they still be.
Is a neat decision.
Yeah, they still just be speaking French with no subtitles. Which, you know, if you're French, give us the give us the lowdown. Did they say anything interesting?
I mean, I picked up some things, but it wasn't. It was all just like mean-spirited stuff.
Oh, sure.
That I could pick up anyway.
Tara only knows the bad words. Right, that's been assessed. Throw your cat away, would you please?
I don't know what he's doing. He's got a weird spot now. He like rubbed his face on the volume for my sound, so you were really loud for a moment. You know, he's a cat. I can't choose when it's time to cuddle. He chooses, and he likes to choose when I do this. So.
Okay. Well, it's very distracting, though.
What? There's a big kitty in this movie. He wants to be part of it.
Okay.
What do you think, Gus? What's your review? Terrible. The kitty cat died. Yeah, you're right.
There you go. That's Gus's review. What everyone was hoping for. So yeah, his brother's there as well. Though his brother's also been captured because we knew he was out looking for her elsewhere. You know, they said that when they found her, and they are being bastards generally. But they know that something's out there. They obviously don't know exactly what the predator is, but they suspect that something's out there, and they're going to use, Naru and her brother as bait. So they tie them up, and we get this kind of like fog of war. It's really misty, right?
Yeah, it looks like it's a forest fire, right? Like
yeah,
because all the trees are burnt up, and everything looks like a cloud.
It's like they've cleared out an area, yeah, and it's all the smoke still fresh. But they've got them tied up in the middle of all this. And this is actually probably the biggest set piece of the movie, I would say, is this sequence, because they're, the predator comes and kills a few of them that are watching from a distance already, but when the predator actually ends up in the middle of this like burned forest, and like our main characters are there trying to get out of their binds, and eventually Naru does it by like getting the bear trap, yeah, and dropping the rock and having their bind like over it and whatever. But this is just a set piece after set piece moment of the predator fighting these Frenchmen, and it is
so much gore.
It's very entertaining. Yeah, it's full of cool stuff, like him ripping arms off, cutting arms off, heads getting stabbed into, all sorts of things. The funny moment though for me comes when he's got this like cool shield that kind of forms. It goes and like sort of forms. He uses that to like cut someone's head off for a start against a tree, which is really nasty. And then like 3 guys shoot him at once with their big muskets, and obviously doesn't do anything. They just bounce off of his shield. But it's a really funny moment because these are old guns that have to be reloaded manually after every shot. So they all just quickly start trying to like hastily try and like load gunpowder. Like,
oh no, we need more.
It's really funny because it's kind of like almost like it's not a joke to the first movie, but it's almost in the first movie like it's like 6 guys with these giant machine guns just like mowing down the forest, and then this movie it's like the guys with the guns, like they get one shot and it's like oh no like we have nothing else to do. So yeah, a lot of really funny stuff. There's a lot of great sequences, like one guy sort of like sneaks up in front of him, so there's this great shot where the predator's on one side of the frame and the guy with the big musket's on the other side of the frame, and the shot just bounces off of his mask and like ricochets back into the shooter, and he gets killed instead. So also kind of funny, but the shot where he's actually about to take the hit is actually quite good. It's like a really cinematic framing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of the predator kind of in silhouette here as well because of the setting that they've got them in right now.
The fog and everything too.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. So that stuff's great when and then she helps the Frenchman who gives her the gun, which yes, let's acknowledge it, it's the gun from Predator 2.
I'm not quite sure how it ends up with the Predators eventually, because she has it at the end, so there's another story there.
Well, did you watch until the mid-credits thing?
Oh, I don't remember any mid-credit.
It's not a scene, but during the credits, it's like sort of the drawings telling the story of the movie.
Oh, I didn't watch those.
No. So at the very end, when it finishes doing that, it shows you Predator ships arriving at the camp. So, admittedly, how they get possession of the gun they then give to Danny Glover's character in Predator 2 is unclear, but presumably this is like the end of Predator 2, where they show up and just to retrieve the body, because she has the, you know, the head and that when she comes to camp. Presumably they show them respect and like
maybe she
know, gives
it to them as an offering.
Maybe, yeah. But it is the exact gun. In fact, at one point when she looks down at it, it's the exact same shot almost of when Danny Glover's holding it in Predator 2.
Yeah.
Just to really make it clear.
Very cool that they decided to do that.
Yeah.
The sequels matter, especially Predator 2.
Only Predator 2. I don't care about Predators. We can forget Predators ever happened. Thank you very much.
Big Willie approves.
What? Explain Big Willie approves.
Well, wait. Big Willie is the Rastafarian guy in Predator 2.
Ah.
Remember him? It was like the dumbest scene.
Okay. I remember that line, obviously.
Big Willie will see you now.
Here, Willie's a word for penis, so Big Willie's just a hilarious name in general.
That's a universal thing.
So, yeah, you know, so the French guy doesn't last long, admittedly, but he wants some medical attention, and he offers to show her how to use the gun, which he does, and she gets like one of the Predator's toys out of his leg. It's like a sort of like. It's like a metallic sort of thing that unwinds.
Slap wrist things.
but more lethal.
But but it'll, if you do it to your wrist, it'll cut your hand off.
Yes. Yes. I mean, you know, we get this great scene here where the Predator's there, but the brother comes in heroically to like save her, and like the brother dies here ultimately, but he has like moments of defiance. You know, he jumps up to stab the Predator again when the Predator might begin after her, because she yells at him. She, you know, again. There's a lot of really inventive little touches here that kind of make it fun, that make it like they're using the various like tools that the Predator has, or how these characters understand what the Predator is up until this point, and to how to like combat it. And you know, she does, you know, she tries to fire the gun, but it doesn't work. You know, so she has to try and refill it. All the rest of it. She sees here how
guns are very complicated.
Yeah, she sees here how the laser sight works as well, because you know she sees that the arrow kind of like, you know, actually finds its target based on where the laser's pointing, which is important for later as well. All this stuff, which is basically all just like building up to like when she goes away, she's like, I'm going to kill this thing, I'm going to take it on, and she puts her war paint back on. She sets up some traps, some spikes and some trees and stuff like that. She places the Predator mask somewhere. I don't think you realise when she first places it where it is. Obviously, it's not until later when the Predator falls into the mud that you realise, oh, it's that location from earlier on. And the whole plan's to basically trick him into shooting himself with these arrows, because he can't see that he's targeting the back of his head with the laser sight. Because, you know, she sneaks up behind him and shoots him in the back of the head, which puts him down for like a little bit, and she grabs the mask and runs off, and that's how she gets it. And up until that point, he probably wasn't going to bother with her, but that moment she shoots him in the back of the head, it's like, okay, that's it, this human's getting it.
Yeah, you've made him angry.
He's pissed. And there's a lot of fun stuff again, where he's, you know, she makes him cut off his own arm with his shield, because he goes to shield a hit with the spear, and it spins into his arm that he's got stuck in the tree because he's trying to stab her.
Yeah. A lot of this is actually kind of funny on how bad the Predator is against her at the end, because again, I think it's just because, like everyone else in the movie, they just underestimated how clever she was, how smart she was. You can sort of see this definitely being written by the same guy who did 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Sure, yeah. I mean, also had a badass, you know, female lead who had to like ultimately save herself. Like that's kind of what that movie was, and this kind of has a bit of that too. And yeah, the shield stuff's great. At one point, like he tries to like, because he can make it close in someone's like head to decapitate them, which he did earlier. And he tries to do it to her, but she sticks her head in between two rocks, which kind of blocks it. So she's kind of like, oh, okay, right, this is kind of saving her for now.
It is tense, though. It does look like it might get through the rock at one point.
And I do like that it's not afraid to play some moments as like heroic and happy. Like the moment when the dog shows up with her tomahawk in its mouth, and she sort of yells for it, and she starts running towards the Predator in slow motion as the dog's like throwing the the tomahawk at her so she can like stab it and like get it in position for the trap. Like I thought that was actually a really good I got excited. I was like, yeah, like do it.
The dog gets to be the hero too.
Yeah, it's a good moment.
Good movie, dog.
And then there's kind of a callback here. She didn't. I mean, I'm thankful they didn't have her say exactly what Arnold said, but it was obviously similar to, "I'm here, do it now.
Yeah,
do it right
Come
now.
on, do it."
Yeah. But she does say, "Come on, do it." And then I also love that after she wins, she lets out this like battle cry, like this yell, and I kind of loved it. It was like, you know what, you earned that yell. You do it.
Hell yeah.
Scream to your heart's content.
She's awesome. She's a great protagonist.
Yeah. I mean, I already liked the actress anyway, but so it was actually kind of cool to see her in this lead role where she gets to be the star of the whole thing and gets to, you know, have this arc, have this thing where she's the underappreciated, underestimated character who ultimately is going to prove herself, and even to the point where maybe she has been a little reckless at times and been a little stupid. You know, arguably her going out there to fight this mysterious thing. Like, you understand why she's motivated. You understand why she feels she needs to, but maybe it is being reckless. Maybe like there is some honesty and like maybe you should not.
Well, I mean, she hasn't really been trained by anybody specifically. She's have been doing this on her own, but you know, it's because also she has to prove herself so much that, you know, she sees how everybody else dies.
Yeah.
Guess.
And I think what's neat about that is, as well, is it's the idea that putting a Predator movie in this time period when people were in tribes and you had to hunt to survive, and hunting was like obviously like a really core like something that basically most of the men, if not all the men, had to do for the tribe, is that it kind of puts it in a time where the kind of the ideals and the code that the Predator has matches the humans a bit more, because humans have kind of went past that and beyond that. So by the time that we're seeing Arnold and co fight the Predator, their purpose is not to hunt animals or anything like that. Yeah, they are killers, and that still kind of rings true, but it's very different. It's all you know, covert and, you know, political and stuff. Whereas this does line up a bit more with like the idea of like the hunter of the tribe having to prove themselves, and they even have a name for their first big hunt where they hunt something that's hunting them. They say that a few times early on, like that kind of mirrors a bit more of what the Predator rite of passage is. So inherently, it just feels like it is a bit more of an even fight, even though in your head going into it, you're thinking, how is this fair without, you know, a minigun and like explosives and all these other things. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's you know, obviously, right, I'm against hunting in general, but I would never go to like an indigenous tribe in the 1700s and be like, you guys shouldn't eat animals, you know.
Yeah, not much choice.
That would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I think the Predator movie is a great example of why hunting is a bad thing, because like, what if you were the one being hunted? You know, it kind of flips it. You know, these big, strong men who are super capable at and very good at killing are all of a sudden the prey. Where in this case, you're right, it does feel more like this is even the philosophies here are even, and they're both, it's a survival thing. Even like hunting the thing that's hunting you, in this case, is a predator like a big cat that's out in the, you know, it's going to keep killing. So we have to go take care of it and make sure we're still on top.
Yeah. Just from a mythology perspective, the idea that this is the first time a predator was on Earth, like the fact that it lost and a human was able to defeat it, would probably be why they see it as like, oh, this is good. This is a good challenging planet. This is a good hunting ground.
Yeah, maybe if we were easy, they wouldn't have come back so many times.
Yeah.
Maybe she's actually doomed us.
Yes. So I think that's cool, and I think while there is some nice like ties to, you know, some of the other movies, it is kind of neat that you can just pick and choose which ones you think are like, you know, relevant, or because let's face it, we'd all like to forget all the stuff the Predator tried to add to the lore. Like we could forget about it wanting like specimens and taking
it wants the spines.
Yeah, the spines, because they're experimenting with like working on like hybrids and things and shit. Yeah. Like I'm happy to sort of just forget that and not have that be canon. Thank you very much. So that's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, like, this is a lean film. It is a very simple idea, but it always stays true to what it is. It spends time letting us to really get to know our main character and appreciating her skills, what she's good at, and rooting for her against the other humans before we finally root for her against the Predator. Because the Predator, because he's the cool movie monster, we kind of inherently like him. You know, we're excited to see him. We're excited to see him kill most of the humans. Like, there's only a few that we care about that we're like, no, don't.
Yeah, obviously. Like, I think that's why you don't have to, like, withhold the Predator for so long in this movie, because, like, this is technically the 7th film. So, if you include the AVP stuff. So, like, we know what the Predator is and what he's about, and we just want to see him be intimidating. And I think it's a really cool balance of, like, okay, we're going to show the Predator, but it's going to be invisible for most of the film.
I think you have to build to him, though, a little bit, because the way that
definitely a build.
Yeah, because the way the Predator just, like, shows him, like on the ship right at the start of the film, or the last one, and it's the same problem happened with like the last AVP movie as well. Like, you just see them, like, chilling and, like, getting ready to leave the ship, like, right at the start of the movie, and it's like, you've just shown me them already. Like, what? Like, have a little bit of build. Like, let me be excited the first time I hear their purr, or the first time I hear their their heat vision sound, and, you know, build up to it a little bit.
Like, even the first thing we get in this movie is we hear the ship approaching Earth, and we know that is not a natural sound. So we're like, ooh, it's from her perspective. She thinks this is a sign from, you know, some Thunderbird, you know, thing in their culture, that it's a good omen for her. And I mean, technically it is, in a way, unless you know, really loved her brother, then it's a bad omen. But it's oh my god. Okay, Gus, you've crossed the line. Sorry, kitty. We'll cuddle after. Too many emojis now. I'm not an emoji person. That was my cat.
Yes. Continue.
I totally lost my train of thought. Of, like, Thunderbird stuff or whatever. That I just, it's just little teases like that. Like, we know that's Predator. We're excited. Little, you know, invisible foot. We know that's Predator. The ant walking over into the sky. The net that comes out. The 3 dots.
Yeah.
There is a build. It's all very familiar, nostalgic stuff, but it's still, like, it's still hidden from us.
Yeah, there still should be a build where you don't show them, like, you still show them cloaked for a bit before you show them fully. Like, you still do that because there's still a bit of anticipation and hype for it. You don't just show them completely at the start.
People, like, looking up in the trees and early on too, like, thinking they heard something.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, you mentioned the net, actually. I forgot to mention that during the forest, you know, the burned forest scenes, what I'm trying to say. He does use the net on someone, and we actually see it from underneath, where it kind of, like, all, like, sucks in again into this little, like, disc container. So it feels extra grisly compared to when we've seen them use the net before.
Yeah.
I thought it was a nice spin.
Yeah.
On that. So
definitely, I did a little cheer inside for the death of that poor Frenchman.
Most of them were awful.
They're awful, but, like, no one deserves to die by net.
Yeah, like, there's not, I don't have a lot of negatives. I really don't. You know, I got them out of the way at the start, or which few little nitpicks I had. And really the only thing is that it's not this astronomical second coming of a movie that the hype almost made it feel like it was going to be for, like, a brief window in time. You know, I still think the first Predator is the better movie, but this is a really inventive, fun take on the premise, and it does use all of the tools that it has. It explores how these types of characters will react to it, how you can use this setting to sort of say something about the Predator and the main character because they kind of are similar, and then how it uses, you know, all of its tools, and then ultimately how she uses its tools against them. Like, all of these things are what makes a Predator movie fun. And I do think there's a danger in just doing, like, because I've seen people in the last couple of days, what a Viking Predator movie, what a samurai Predator movie, and these I'm sure could be great. They could be. I think there's a danger of like overdoing it with that if you're going to like have a similar kind of like structure each time. I think what I would suggest doing for another movie would be have the predator be in a location and a setting that's unintentional for it. Something that wouldn't be a traditional hunting ground. Like, what if a predator, say, crashes in the water and ends up getting onto like a cruise ship or something, or a big ship. So it's like a slightly different type of setting where this isn't a natural hunting ground, but it's ended up there, so we have to deal with the fact that there's a predator on a ship or something.
I guess, but then like, why would the predator? I mean, it would kill for survival. It wouldn't be a hunt anymore.
True. There's things to iron out. Like, maybe this is present day presumably, so maybe the secret organization that's like tracking them is looking for it, and maybe that's why he gets shot down. Maybe like some Earth like jets like shot the ship down.
Yeah.
And maybe they're hunting the predator, so we get like a predator on a cruise.
Maybe they know. Maybe there is a cycle to things, and they're like, you know what? It's been 70 years. It's about time another predator showed up. Let's be ready.
I don't know. I'm saying something that's a little bit more specific than just pick a different time period with a different type of warrior, which you could do. I'm a little concerned that it would get. I think it could get repetitive if they just do that, though.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this one felt appropriate, because we had so many, like, okay, this Predator was the first movie, and then we do a little bit more, add to a little bit more to the lore until it gets a bit too ridiculous by the last one, where it was just like, we don't like this at all. And I think that if you want to keep this franchise going, God, I don't know. Like, I mean, yeah, samurai sounds cool, but it's already going into the land of like redundant to me.
Yeah, it's instantly. Like there's a few interesting action sequences you can probably picture in your head, but I don't necessarily think there's something cool about that. Because what made Predator 2 fun was that it was in a city. It wasn't about a different time period or anything. I think you could do something else that's present day or something else that's in the past, but make it be
maybe like in a war zone or something. I mean, that's a little bit first Predator too, but like an actual like war zone.
But I'm just saying, make it something other than just a setting and the type of people that are around. I mean, I know the city is a setting, but what I mean by that is like it's not just a specific country or something. Like a city is so different from a jungle. Like it inherently just makes it.
Do you
different.
Still want your suburban high school versus Predator?
I kind of do, yeah, but obviously done well. Done better than that previous example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess all I'm really saying is that you can't just necessarily borrow the same structure again. You have to do something else. And I think part of the reason why this movie works so well is that this main character is so different to every main character that we've ever had in a Predator movie. This, this young woman, warrior who needs to prove herself, who actually has an arc, which is very different to, I mean, and it's not to say that there's not an arc of some sort in the original Predator, but it's very different because it's not, it's not like Arnold starts the movie with this like thing he needs to get over or this thing that he needs to grow from. Well,
he is pretty cocky in the beginning.
It's not like that, right? It's a little bit different. So they gave the main character a story and an arc to sort of like frame the movie around. So I think that's key number one. You have to give me a different type of main character. And Predator 2 to an extent does that as well, where it's now a detective who's just trying to like, police and like figure out what's going on. It's very different to, either this or the original Predator. So I think if you're going to do another one, I would say, okay, you want to do one set in Japan in samurai times, but give me a very different type of character. Don't give me a young character who has to prove himself, because that'll just feel like this one. Give me, maybe give me the aged samurai who, like, thinks he's done, but maybe this is his last hurrah. Like, he can do one last fight to prove himself. I mean, he's still proving himself, I suppose, but,
we
like,
get
something
a
different.
little bit of that in Predators.
Doesn't matter.
But it is, like, one of the best scenes in the movie, though, is that we're getting, the possible samurai versus Predator.
Yeah, but that movie was boring as shit, so I don't care.
Yeah, it's not good.
Oh god, Predator is so boring. Like, it really is. I see some people ranking that higher than Predator 2, and I don't know what they're thinking. I don't get it. I really don't.
Yeah.
Predator 2 is way more entertaining and fun. I do not fathom it.
Agreed.
Yeah. So
I don't know if I put Predator 2 over this one because I do think this movie's better, but yeah, I mean the nostalgia thing's tough to beat. Plus, it's got Busey.
it's got Busey, it's got Paxton.
Yeah.
So it's hard to counter that. But oh, did you see on Twitter? Oh, you don't have Twitter, but like I'll tell you on Twitter, Jesse Ventura was tweeting about how much he liked the movie.
Good for him.
And he was saying how much of a great star Midthunder is. So
yeah,
that's what I said to it.
It is great that they actually had a cast of people with Native American descent. That was pretty cool. Not that you can get away with that now, but it does feel like a movie that is very it's very mature and very of now and making the right decisions versus like the last one that came out only 4 years ago and it felt like super dated and wrong.
Yeah, it felt dated the day it came out. It was it was a weird feeling with that movie, but
yeah.
Hey. But yeah. Anything else you'd like to add about Prey?
Just super thankful that it exists and that it's great. Thank goodness. Thank you, Dan Trachtenberg. Please make more movies. Also, what the heck? Like,
I'm sure you will.
Taking all this time off.
I'm sure you will. Like between 10, I mean, did some TV episodes. That's kind of what you've been doing in between. But between this and 10 Cloverfield Lane, I have to imagine you'll get work. I have to imagine you'll be wanted.
Yes.
For projects. So.
Yeah, he's a name. Come on, make films.
Yeah.
Unless you don't have, I guess if you don't have something that in mind, then you could take some time off. But
I'm sure there'll come something. I mean, he's been tweeting about it. He's happy. He's proud of the film.
Great.
So, yeah. Hopefully,
you too.
I hope this means that we get more of him as a director and we get more of Midthunder in movies. I want both of those things after this, which is...
Yeah, I really enjoyed her character in this, and her acting in this too. Very good.
Yeah, so... yeah, alright, well I guess we'll rate the movie then. What are you rating Prey?
I know what I rated Predator 2, so I'm going to give this one 8.5, because I do think it's slightly a better film. And I don't know, like, maybe with more viewings as it gets, maybe I appreciate it even more later on and it goes up on my ranking, but at the moment, I think 8.5. Very, very good film.
Yeah, I'm going to go with solid 8 right now. Again, maybe as I see it more, it'll inch up, but I think it's just a really solid, great movie. Not like amazing. This is changed how I see movies. It's not better than the original.
It's not life changing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a really great, solid movie that does things, does what it's doing very well. Is well shot. Has a compelling main character. But it's this weird thing where I'm saying all this. I'm rating it an 8, and to me, that's a great score. 8 means great. It rhymes, simple, it's effective, easy to remember. But this is to me, this is such a solid movie, and it's kind of like just showing what all the movies I'm not giving this score that come out these days. All the crappy horror movies that I watch with Tim on streams that are weak. A lot of the superhero movies that come out. Like, this is just a really compelling, well thought out, standalone movie, and it feels very fulfilling because of it. And you know what? Between this, Crimes of the Future, and Everything Everywhere All at Once, I'm having a good few weeks.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, this is a really great year for movies so far. Like, I know last year and 2020 are a little bit like, come on, can we really blame it on the years?
Yeah,
maybe, but or maybe it's just a result of people having to work with the fewer cast and crew and go to more isolated locations. I don't know, but this has been a really great year for movies, even horror.
2021, I still don't even have a top 5, never made a top 10. And what I mean by that is I've seen more than 10 movies. I've seen 40 movies from 2021. I just don't think there's any good enough to put in a top 10.
Yeah, I mean, apart from the usual great Pixar film that comes out, or even like Disney,
2021 is a really rough year for me, movies wise. 2022, on the other hand, like
it's killing it.
You know, I've got a good handful now that I am happy to recommend, and I'm excited about, and I'm wanting to spread and tell people to see. Prey is one of those movies, especially if you care about Predator in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And I imagine this is I mean, you could watch this without having seen the other films. It might even bring in some new fans because just because it's the new movie that's out on some services, and maybe they'll go back and check out the, 1 and 2. You can leave the rest, but
wish I could watch this in theaters. It's BS.
Yeah. This feels like it should have been a theater release. It feels it's high quality enough that it felt like it should have been at least anyway.
Yeah.
So, oh well. It is what it is, but at least we got the movie. It exists, and that's the most important thing.
And we got another 2022 movie next time, right?
No.
Oh.
Oh, wait, no, maybe we do, actually.
I thought we were doing Nope next.
You may be right. No, I think you're right. I was thinking we're going straight on to the vote winner next, but I think you're right, yes. I think Nope is finally out in the UK, so I can see it.
Nice. I've already seen it, but I'll go back. I want to see it in IMAX because it is a really beautifully shot film. So hopefully it's still playing in IMAX. I think so. I don't think there's anything that would have supplanted it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll check after we're done recording to see if this all maps out. But yes, in theory, we're doing Nope next week, so
yeah.
Look forward to that. But yeah, that is Prey. Thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed our rambles about the film, and hopefully you enjoyed the film. Give us your thoughts in the comments down below, or on Twitter at Screams Midnight, or on our Discord, wherever is convenient. But you can, of course, support us in a couple of different ways. You can hit the super thanks button below the video for a one-time donation, or you can support us where, Tara?
Why, that would be patreon.com/mildfuzztv, where if you donate as low as $3 per month, you will get access to more reviews with us. We do science fiction reviews for movies that are not quite at this caliber. More the B movie tier. But they are really fun, and if you enjoy bad movies, and sometimes some real gems, there's some real good ones over there, like Extra. That was a really surprisingly good movie. What else do we have that's really good over there? Philadelphia Experiment 2 was a surprisingly good movie. Peter might disagree.
Yeah. What? No, I'm not paying attention for a second, and Tara's spouting.
Time Cop. I mean, that's a great movie. That's over there.
People know that's great. That's not a hidden gem.
we just did all the Tremors sequels, so you can see the journey and saga of Burt Gummer over on Patreon. And anyway, if you enjoy more of us, we also have a new program that's going to be over there at the $5 tier. Huh?
Finally, remember to promote the new show. Yay!
I hate you.
It's called the Ace Meltdown. We get together once a month, starting in August 2022, just in case you're watching this much later. And we just talk about the different movies we've been watching. Not in depth like we do, like when we just have one movie we talk about, but we'll just sit and talk about all the different films of different genres that we have been watching throughout the month, in short, sort of spoiler-free bites. Plus, there'll maybe occasionally be some talk of a trailer or something, or maybe I'll have some sort of icebreaker for the start of the show. We haven't recorded the first one yet, so I don't know. It's not set in stone yet, but the main part is just talking about what movies we've been watching over the past month. So,
yes,
that's coming soon. So there you go. Yes, and I'll take this time to thank our Patreon producers, which is one of the higher tiers in Patreon. So thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Bornow, Christopher Moy, David Brown, Al Treisman, and Alison M4 Dice. Thank you to you all. And thanks to everyone who supports us in any way, shape, or form. All of it is appreciated and helps keep all the content coming. But that is the show. That is the Atomic Cinema Experiment. That has been Prey. So hopefully you enjoyed the movie. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. And we will see you soon. So keep watching science fiction and computer ad salsa.